One, two.
What up,
Good
RemiX?
morning.
Buenos dias.
Happy Friday.
True.
Can't possibly. Totally Thursday, but okay.
For RemiX is Friday, just like for RemiX Tuesday is Monday.
Incorrect,
Let it be
Jared.
known.
How you getting people's day started by telling them the wrong day to
Because it's
start
the
off?
RemiX Friday.
It's
Thursday,
Remix Friday.
RemiX Friday.
Yes.
Like
In socialist
Tuesday,
remix, work days are only
Monday.
3 days a week, right?
True indeed.
You gotta
Yes,
get with
yes.
the RemiX calendar.
That's right. Every day is Friday. Yeah. What's good, party people?
Good.
What's happening, everybody?
Yeah.
It's good to see you all.
I see
Yeah.
some color coordination going on right now. You got Baba Lukman and Kamal got the same colors on in solidarity. You know what I mean? You know, Jared trying to blend in a little bit. I see his Paisley Park get up. He doing his thing.
Ooh,
Chilling in
Prince
the
in the
building.
building.
The artist formerly known as J Ball is in the building. It's popping. Sister's looking fresh. Kim Brown looked like she been up for 2 hours getting ready.
20 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. It's all good. We here today.
But thank you.
Jackie
like
Luke Vaughn ready for war. Okay,
Right,
hold on.
always.
Do that dance again, Jared. Hold on. Oh,
What is that?
TikTok, you don't stop. But
Hey, we
TikTok, you don't
didn't we hit the 200 Patreons?
hey.
stop.
Did we?
You did?
I think so, didn't we?
Oh, I might.
All right.
Well, that's all
Also-
good then.
I'll check if it's good, dude. You got to do. I'll do my TikTok dance.
You got a TikTok.
You know,
Didn't we hit the 200?
with a TikTok. You don't stop.
You don't stop. Abdus over there shafting it up. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm just looking like I want my daddy records.
That's right. Because I need the money.
Blood never jelly.
No, we are 7 away from our end of the month. 200, only 7 away. Today is May 20th. So we need 7 more Patreons to make our 200. But I also want to say thanks everybody. Yesterday we launched the Veterans Mutual Aid for Black Panthers. In one day we have over 111 Patreons who joined in one day. That's just through our own personal networks. So I really appreciate everything that everybody's done so far to make it happen. It's been fantastic in terms of the response. And then we'll try to do what we can to get some bigger publicity or other media to extend it past our networks. But everybody's done a fantastic job spreading it, giving up a little dough, helping to support the Panthers. So we really appreciate that.
Beautiful.
No
Hey,
doubt.
can you drop the link to that Patreon in the chat?
I sure will.
Word
Thank you
up,
very much.
word up.
Thank you very much.
Feels good, man. Let us start off by saying rise in power, Paul Mooney. You know what
Yes,
I mean? 'Cause
indeed.
Yes.
we're gonna talk about him a little later. Folks like Paul Mooney and Dick Gregory, those are the icons, the Flip Wilsons and all of those. But one thing about Paul Mooney is just that flavor. So we definitely gonna talk about Paul. Shout out to his family, Dwayne and Daryl, his sons or whatever. They're comedians out in LA, you know. But definitely, he's gonna be missed. That cat went from Richard Pryor to Dave Chappelle. Not
Yeah,
too many
he did.
comedians could say that.
Right on.
Yeah.
You know the names of Paul Mooney's sons?
I know them, brother. We work. They support FCP in LA. Shout out to Daryl
Word.
and Dwayne. That's right.
Yeah.
We do work around here. This is the
Wow.
revolution, brother. We gotta know somebody everywhere. That's how
Yeah,
we get
That's right.
My bad.
That's right.
That's true.
Hey, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't just do this for the internet. Anyway,
Do this for the internet.
anyway, shout out to the remixers out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hold us
right on.
down.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's
Make
go,
sure you
y'all.
get out there and tell a friend and a foe and a comrade and a colleague to jump on in.
Let it be known. Hey, come
It's
out,
Boom
still
Bap
shaking his
Breakfast.
head.
Yep.
He's still shaking his head on that remixer thing. I don't know why.
He
I like it. I'm down with it.
really just does not like it. Why, Kamal? Why don't you like it?
The remixers?
Yeah.
But you know, I think somebody in the chat had another name too, though. That
Oh,
they,
yeah?
What they say?
toss it around. I gotta see that comment, but somebody said, "Well, why can't we call us? Can we call us something else?" So
Well,
I mean, if somebody see that comment, man,
Mix-a-lots?
Yeah, the mix-a-lots. Yeah.
Even that.
I like that.
I don't mind that either.
I like the mix-a-lots.
listen, y'all corny.
Look, just like all the big major football clubs in the world, they have groups of supporters that sometimes rival each other. So we can have the remixers versus the mix-a-lots.
Okay.
No, that's not bad either. That's right.
Well, we need to put in the vote real quick. You know what I mean? All the folks that's the remixes say you remixing. All the folks that's the mix-a-lots.
Well, let the people decide. Like, let them pick
That's
a
what I'm
name.
saying. Hit it up in the chat.
And if we're gonna vibe with the chat, I think people should put in their if they got them, put in your Paul Mooney stories and experiences in the chat. I got a little one that I might save because we talk about it in tomorrow's Last Dope Intellectual. So I might just let it linger for there and let you all rock if you have them. But
I heckled Paul Mooney once. I would love to tell y'all about that.
Oh wow! You heckled Paul Mooney.
You heckled Paul Mooney.
Damn!
I'm not afraid of comedians, man.
I didn't know
and
we
if
had his name.
comedians is being wacky, they need to talk about themselves.
I would never want to heckle him. And
So what did you?
Can you tell the short version? Like, what
let's get it.
Paul Mooney, B.
Real quick, don't ask me the year. Let's say 2015. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was Paul Mooney and Dick Gregory at the Howard Theater. Luke Bones was probably in there somewhere. My mama and I went because my mama's cool and shit, so we hang out. And we were sitting towards like Howard Theater is like floor, and then there's upper part. So we were like on the floor part. And Paul Mooney, if you guys remember, I don't know, was it the prostate cancer that actually took him out? But he was diagnosed with prostate cancer a long time ago. And this is just my layperson observation. Like, men who have prostate cancer, it sometimes affects their cognitive abilities. So Paul Mooney was on stage doing his bit, and he had some liquor, and he found some titties in the front row, and he could not stop talking about these titties. And I'm like, nigga, tell some jokes. So that's what I stood up in the back and said.
Oh wow!
Like, he was going on about these women's breasts for like 15 minutes, like got way off his set to the point he was not even telling jokes.
Wait,
so my
you
mama
just said, I'm sorry, you just said the man had prostate cancer and he talking about some titties. Even in his last days, he can't talk about titties. Go ahead.
Not at $45 a ticket.
Well,
no,
she's like, I paid for a show. I paid for a show.
I mean, I think you got to give credit and power to the titties, though.
I mean, you should know.
I'm just saying. I mean, to be able to stop when somebody said.
You're watching the Remix Morning Show.
That's right.
They can't be hypnotized. They can't be hypnotized.
You white folks don't have titties like that.
Let's not play around there.
But it was hilarious because, my mother and I are not bougie people, but we were sitting at a table with a bougie couple, and the look on the bougie couple's face, they were like, you need to tell some jokes.
Well, that part's on them, because if you're bougie like that going to see Paul Mooney and Dick Gregory, that's on you. That's on you.
Right.
The over fixation part, I think, is another thing, and I applaud you for just, whether right or wrong, agree or not, just that you would stand up on Paul Mooney is
exactly.
That's gangster. I'll just say the one little thing I'll share from mine is I had to just leave early to get my car out of a parking garage. And I'm a fully grown man and all that. I was scared to get up and leave while he was still doing his set. I made it out. He didn't. I didn't think I wasn't sure. But anyway. So all power to you for doing that. I definitely would not have stood up and said, "I think you should stop doing what you're doing, Dick Gregory."
Yeah.
So all praise to you. There's the strength of sisters is commendable.
Dick Gregory had his shit together. Paul Mooney.
Paul Mooney. I wouldn't have stood up on either one of them. I ran into Dick Gregory in an elevator on a number of occasions, just because we always be around DC, and that would be enough of an adventure on its own.
Dick Gregory cut you out too.
On a number of occasions, and say a whole bunch of things. Yeah,
I don't understand. I've been doing this work for 58 years. You don't know shit.
Yeah.
They're doing that on actual radio, not YouTube. But when you're on actual radio, banging on the mic, saying whatever he wants to say, I don't care about Pacifica, and I don't. Anyway, so rest in power to both of them.
Absolutely.
No doubt. And Paul transitioned on Malcolm X Day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
if you're gonna go, that's right on.
Hey,
and
go out.
our new member there, Yvonne. Welcome.
No doubt.
Welcome.
Yvonne Shirley, welcome. You are now officially a remixer. That's cool. We
Or a mix-a-lot.
Hey, listen, on the real.
That breakfast. She don't.
Hey, Sir Mix-a-Lot had to be one of the top 10 wackest rappers of all time. So I don't even understand why
you made a lot of money with that one song, though.
Yeah, well,
talk about a fixation.
Yeah, I was gonna say another part of the anatomy that can be hypnotizing.
Exactly. Anyway,
that was also a Black radical anthem. Don't forget the other part of that. Now, hold up though, because don't forget the other part of that was putting white women in check.
Damn.
For being culture vultures and being and remember, because the whole thing was it was saying we don't want I also remember it was also used as a debate on the ship I was on as to whether brothers should be dating white women, and that's how, because it was taken as it was a black woman's anthem, not just the big butts. It was saying black women. So shout out to Sir Mix-a-Lot and all the Mix-a-Lots.
So you mean to tell me from this point on, if I see a sister and I say, hey, I like big butts so they cannot lie, be like, no, it's a political statement, sis.
I'm just saying, you got to take people where they are. Like you said, the revolutionaries got to be linked up everywhere. Come on, Kalachi.
I got to give it the program. Right?
Runs a Honda. Wearing work got taste by Fonda. But Fonda ain't got a Honda in the back of her Honda. My anaconda don't want none in the
I don't believe it.
I gotta get Kim's background one day. It's just
I'm scared to know Kim's background.
I know. Like
you tried to check me on mine yesterday, and today she sing about big butts and anacondas.
It was.
But you were mad at Paul Mooney's fixation on
Jane.
Come on.
Anyway.
Thank you. Who in the chat said Mix-a-Lot's not whack? Shout out to Seattle. What's up, Washington? What's up, Washington State out here?
Oh boy.
Shout out to Seattle though.
I mean,
Posse on Broadway. Let's go.
Yeah, Posse on Broadway. Oh Lord. Anyway, shout out to all the dope MCs out there. So Mix-a-Lot's definitely not one. That's no diss to Seattle. We like Seattle. Shout out to all the freedom fighters out in Seattle. You know what I mean? That burned it down like Kim Brown. You're checking out the remix. We got a whole lot of good stuff coming tonight. But before we get down on that, we're gonna bring in our resident ear doctor, get some of the wax out your ear, wake you out, cold out your eyes.
My posse's on Broadway.
Oh boy!
Don't forget his other joint. That's right, ear doctor.
Man, y'all buggy right there. That was
good. Let's try to remember. Nobody gonna remember that.
Nobody. Hip hop heads remember.
Anyway, yo, we got the weather right here. We're gonna get into it. Let's do it.
Nice.
What's good, everybody? I am the Ear Doctor. This is Black Power Media, and you are tuned into the Remix Morning Show. And we are going to give you your weather for today. We like to give y'all the highs in different places. So let's take it first over to Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk, Virginia. Big up to the VA and all them out there. High today is 83 degrees. It's a lot of 80s going around right now, especially, and big up to Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan got a high of 85 degrees today also. And then we're going to take it over to the islands. We're going to go over to Oranjestad, Aruba. Yes, high is going to be 87 degrees. Now let's take it to the other side of the world, over to Madagascar, which just like Kenya is another big country, 88 degrees. And then we're going to take it to where it's colder than the white man. We're going to take you to Timaru, New Zealand, where they have a high of 38 degrees. But it's not just cold as your regular white man. It's as cold as Sir Hiram Stevens Maximum. He was the inventor of the best of the automatic machine gun. He held patents for numerous mechanical devices like the hair curling iron, a mouse trap, and He even said he laid claims to inventing the light bulb. Come on, son. You know you ain't invent no light bulb. Stop playing. But anyway, this dude was like, not just one bullet to kill him. Let's get a whole bunch. Boom. So that's what he was like. So yeah, Harem Stevens Maximum. Yo, let's get back to the Remix Morning Show with the morning crew. You know how we do.
And that's it. Is it Maximum or is it Maxim?
It's Maxim.
Maxim.
But he was pumping out maximum bullets.
Right. Just check it.
Good course correction. Good course correction.
I give him nicknames. You know what I mean?
I like that.
And helping the white man conquer the globe.
Yeah. Well, shout out to him for the mousetrap. But anyway.
Yeah, I catch y'all next break.
Thanks, Ear Doctor.
All right. Peace.
Only with the Ear Doctor can you get history. I mean, see that right there. That's kind of along that Paul Mooney-ish type joint right there. That's our version. You know what I mean? Without even trying, he comes through. He comes through. Anyway, you're checking out the Remix Morning Show. What we got in the news today, man?
Did we speed up the morning mix music thing? That was an up tempo beat. I like that.
I don't know. You had to holler at May for that.
Oh, yeah, a little up tempo.
It's above my pay grade.
Anyway, back to the Remix Morning Show and our up tempo beats. We got my man Jay Ball about to drop some news on us. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know also Kim has some contributions also. So Kim, I don't know if you wanted to go first, or we'll go ahead, Kim. Get us started this morning with this story that seems kind of fascinating. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's just another brick in the wall as to why police in the whole system of policing should be abolished, because when it comes to corruption and it comes to the deliberate incarceration of Black and brown people, like, it doesn't just end with police. It includes prosecutors, judges, and in the District of Columbia, apparently it includes the DC Crime Lab. So the story I wanted to bring to y'all is the latest in what has been a semi-quiet saga of the DC Crime Lab losing its national accreditation. And what the most recent news is that the head of the crime lab, Dr. Jennifer Smith, who has been head of the DC Crime Lab for actually since 2015, Mayor Muriel Bowser accepted Dr. Smith's letter of resignation, which is amazing that the bitch didn't get fired, that she got to quit. But what the DC Crime Lab is accused of doing is falsifying evidence, concealing evidence, trying to obfuscate the findings of an audit, which was done by the accreditation entity that oversees crime labs. So what I've been reading is that actually, so what they are accused of doing, the DC Crime Lab, hold on, let me pull this up so I'm saying this correctly. But over the course of several months, this lab has been investigated. Like I said, they have lost their accreditation. They have been accused of falsifying evidence, including one example listed by DCist.com. According to the report commissioned by DC Attorney General Carl Racine, concluded that the lab erroneously connected cartridge casings from two 2015 killings to the same gun, and later misrepresented the mistake to 2 national accreditation boards. And the allegation also sparked a criminal investigation by the DC Office of the Inspector General, which is still ongoing. So what this is probably going to end up is that a lot of people's cases are going to get looked at again, because the forensics evidence presented by the DC Crime Lab, this shit can't be trusted, right? Because these bastards is playing fast and loose with the evidence and putting people in jail. So, y'all, I don't gotta tell the Black Power Media, the RemiX Morning Show audience this, but just because someone has been to jail or has a conviction, don't mean they did the shit, okay? Because these cops, these crime labs, these prosecutors are all in cahoots together. They are not interested in justice. They are not interested in convicting guilty parties. They are interested in just putting bodies away. And so it will be interesting to see what the conclusions of the investigation come to bear out, because currently the accreditation for the DC Crime Lab is simply suspended, but they are working on yanking their accreditation entirely. So what does that mean for people who have been convicted off the evidence of this particular office? So this is a very shameful thing for the District of Columbia. Really, it needs to be a national news story, because this is the nation's capital. So imagine what is happening in perhaps places that don't have the level of police funding that DC has, right? You would assume that if these entities are getting all this money, they're going to do the shit correct or right. But that is not what has happened. So I just wanted to put that out there. If y'all have any any comments about this, because it doesn't end. It's not just the cops, y'all. These people lie, they fabricate evidence. The same thing similar that we're seeing happen out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina, with the case of Andrew Brown Jr., that the state sat on these body cam videos for a month, and then released an edited, very edited version of the events that match their narrative. You understand? So the manipulation, the corruption, the intentional prosecution and murder in a lot of cases of Black and brown people. I mean, it just continues, and it just doesn't start and end with the cops. It's every entity connected to law enforcement and policing.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be clear that, again, that's part of, imperialism. It's part of capitalism. That's the nature of the game. I'm surprised when they don't hide evidence. I'm surprised when they don't taint evidence. I'm surprised when they actually tell the truth, because usually it's a result of a double lie. You know what I mean? So certain things or whatever, I mean, it's like, it's almost like the same story that you're telling right here, the same article, you can reproduce this and put it in 20 different cities
everywhere
over the next 5 years.
That's right.
And it'll be the same thing, and it's just the names will change. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the nature of the thing. We got to stop giving these bastards the benefit of the doubt and actually doubt their benefit.
Yeah, and especially here in DC with Muriel Black Lives Matter Plaza Bowser with her $500 million police, but $500 million for the police in this city. And I mean, DC's police apparatus has had problems for decades. I mean, we didn't have a coroner's office for a long time. We did not have a coroner's office, but the cops always had all of this money. So you're right, Kim. I'm so glad you made the point that this is not just a police issue. This is an issue of the entire system. And just because the person who is passing the budget and making the decisions is a blackface with a D beside their name, it doesn't mean they give a damn about you, because, Muriel, I don't like, what does she say?
Mambo sauce.
Yeah, I don't like Mambo Sauce Bowser with her.
Did she say that?
She did.
How was she the mayor of DC saying
How
that?
did she grow up in DC and talk about I don't know what Mambo sauce is?
Even white folks wasn't buying that.
What? Even the
That's what I'm
gentrifiers.
saying. How did she even get elected with that? That should have preempted her election by itself.
But these are the kinds of things that we have to be clear about when we're talking about these movements in the streets, and we're talking about, combating the narrative of reforming the police. No, it's not just the police. It's the prosecutor's office. It's the medical examiner's office. It is the mayor's office. A budget is a moral document, and these people don't have any morals. So we have to be clear that we're talking about the entire apparatus, the Department of Corrections, everything, all of it. And it's just, this is not a surprise. It's just like, as a resident of DC, I've lived here since I was 6 years old. I was like, oh, this is Tuesday. Okay.
But Jackie, there's nothing to worry about, given that DC police have already gotten all that Israeli training, in addition to this increased funding. So I don't understand. You should feel more comfortable and relaxed.
I feel so safe with the 4 or 5 police cruisers on one corner and the 4 other police cruisers on the other corner constantly flashing their lights at, every evening. I feel so safe. Yeah.
I would
Shout out to
really quickly. So, I mean, our people are treated as the grist to keep this machine running, because as it's like some from the police of the arrest, the securing, and they want to secure convictions, right? That's how they monitor themselves. That's how they pat themselves on the back. That's how they get their promotions, their raises. That's how they run for higher offices. And we're the ones who are the grist for the system. So the prosecutors are not interested in the truth. They're interested in, if someone says that they've got somebody in a suspect, then they want to build a case around that person. But it's far few in between anyone who starts to care in the prosecutor's office around whether or not they got the right person. If someone is fitting a description and they can fit a narrative in, they start building evidence around that narrative, which leads them down the same road of talking to the forensics officers and trying to get what they think is the right information. That's why there's so many cases that have been overturned, because the prosecutors refused to, or somehow forgot to, give over evidence to the defense side so that these things can be put in front of a jury, right? So it's all because these officers are driven by their desire to feed themselves, to feed their big budgets, to say, look how many folks we've convicted. And who are those folks, as Jackie said? Those are Black and brown folks.
I'm never going to forget when, with my own experience, I'm never going to forget when I was fighting my case, and the prosecutor who they gave to me, my public defender said, pretender, we used to call it. And my public pretender came to me and said, they offer you 30 years, right? And I said, well, I'm not going to take the 30 years. So he said, well, you're only going to do 15 off of it. And he said, at that time, I was like 23 years old. He said, look, you go down, you lift some weights, you play some basketball, this is what, now he's supposed to be representing me. This is what he said to me. He said, look, you go down, you play some basketball, you lift some weights. By the time you come home, you look good, and you can go on with your life. That's what, I swear to God, that's what he said to me. And I told him, I said, well, you know what? You no longer represent me. And I was, but this is, and I'm sure Kalani will tell you too, this is how a lot of these jokers come at you. And it's a shame, because a lot of young men, such as myself at that time, we don't know anything about the law or anything like that. So they work in cahoots with the prosecutor, and the prosecutor said, make this guy take this deal. And then what's so bad about it is, Kim, what goes to your point about everybody who's been convicted doesn't mean that they're innocent. I'm guilty, because in order for you to take a plea deal, you have to admit you did it, even if you didn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the nature of the game. Like you said, shit, they offered me 36 with no evidence. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Same program. Oh man, you only do 6. Look, I ain't trying to do shit.
Right, exactly. Yep, that's how they do.
Yeah, but it's
all I had to do was serve a simple little naval sentence. I just had to do 4 years in the Navy, so I got off easy.
Yeah, well, we glad we didn't meet you at that particular point and shit. He's on the wrong side of the barricades. You wouldn't have made it. And that's your Malcolm story. That was your Detroit Red right there. If you was on the wrong side of the barricades, we'd have lift your ass up. We'd have caught you in the hood. But I'm glad we didn't catch you in the hood, because you my man and shit. We on here in the remix together. But imagine we'd have
to me.
Wakes up at the right time.
You told the Navy. That's we. Hey, listen, man. And shout out to all the brothers and sisters who went into that line of work, and they came out on the right side of the barricades, because of the fact that on the real, we got to be clear. because I still see folks right now talking about I'm gonna join the military and so on and so forth, and it's like, man, in 2021, you know what I mean? And I understand, you go for whatever reasons, but shout out to those who come out unscathed and also aren't aiding and oppressing and murdering other people across the planet.
Hey, Jared, I just want to ask you a quick question though, man. When you was in the Navy, right? I mean, what was your politics like, man? Because I don't know if I ever heard you talk about that a lot.
The short answer is I was raised always far left of center. I just was stupid and did a lot of dumb stuff as a kid. So I ended up just serving. The lawyer said, the judge said, the lawyer and the judge said prison or the Navy.
Right.
So I chose the Navy. So my politics were maybe left of center, but I was just a normal, regular, stupid kid. But it was in the military that I was heavily politicized. So there would be the days of the contradiction of having Malcolm's autobiography or Fanon's Wretched of the Earth in my pocket while helping bombs get loaded to planes that would be dropped on Iraqi people. So I recognize the contradiction. I recognize what side of the barricade I was on, but I did come out ready to go and have been on this side ever since. So and got out as early as possible too.
That's dope.
And for what you're saying, and for what you're saying, all jokes aside, at one point I wanted to join the SEAL team. I wanted to come back and train brothers and sisters in the hood, because at that particular point, that's all we knew. You know what I'm saying? We was on that Geronimo Pratt thing, like, okay, boom, you go join, you learn the joint, and you bring it back to the community. Nowadays, we don't have to do that because of the fact that we have so many brothers and sisters who are in the movement who already did that and have all types of skill sets and whatever. But definitely, I'm ragging you on that. I know the era that you come from.
The rah-rah, there was no, I only remember meeting one person of any background who was gung-ho about defending the United States and going to war. And this was a white dude, but
he's probably a cop now.
Probably. But by and large, everybody was there for all kinds of different reasons. Trying to get fed, trying to get health care, trying to, get an education, trying to get out of jail, trying to, so the amount of people, and the military knows that, and they play off of that, and they prey off of that. So I'm not justifying what we end up doing when we serve, so-called. But I am saying that nobody was in there saying, I want to wave the flag and go get somebody. It wasn't like that.
Shout out to the people that go to the military and come out more radical than what they went in. And I'm thinking about a brother named Christopher Dorner out in California. And I'm thinking about another brother whose name escapes me, but he was the brother in Dallas, Texas, who was the first person to ever be killed by a robot bomb on American soil.
I thought that was Dorner.
No, his last name was Johnson. His last name was Johnson.
You talking about the one that shot up
down in Dallas?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
and what's my man's name from back in the day? Man Essex. Shout out to Mark Essex.
New Orleans.
Yep.
And since we on that, my man out of Atlanta, Brian. Man, it escapes me, but anyway, we trying to indict ourselves this morning. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I feel like that this is probably like the only space that we can talk freely about some of these brothers and sisters who have taken these big actions. I want to meet the person who has done the biography on Christopher Dorner. Like, he is still such a fascinating figure to me, like his life, the way he died, why he went out the way he did. And I feel like Black people, we talk about him and related folks sort of like in hushed tones, because for reasons we don't want the alphabet boys come knocking at our door like, oh, you support XYZ. But I mean, I'm calling him a hero. I'm gonna come out there and say that.
Yeah, the state is clear about our politics. You know what I'm saying? It's not, I'm just talking shit. And plus, we still on the first story, and we got 5 more to go. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyway, move right along. The remix.
But I think Kim, I'm messing this up now. But I know Kim raises a very good point, and I read Dorner's manifesto thoroughly back in the day. And for whatever people want to say, there's a lot of logic to it. So if you want the world to be any different, people need to read that and take that man seriously if we want anything to change. But anyway, that story should be told for sure. I hate to have to try to follow that with one of these news pieces, because there's nothing that I have that's going to be anywhere near as exciting as a follow-up to a discussion of like that. But I did want us to at least touch a little bit on this deal that happened or was announced last week. Not so much for me, at least, for the details of AT&T's Warner Media, which, you know, they're already conglomerated media ownership and merger with Discovery, but not just for the specific details of another conglomerate consolidated media piece, but just to raise a couple quick points. One, there's the business side of it that I have not really looked into, admittedly, too carefully, in terms of why these particular corporations felt it necessary now to do this. Details behind that. AT&T, Discovery rather, was losing value last year, and this is something that, you know, is supposed to help them. But really, I just wanted to point out, one, that this is yet another conglomerate, media conglomeration. It's taking place around the context of the streaming wars, where Netflix is still dominating, but others are trying to catch up with Hulu and Disney and Amazon and now AT&T wanting to get into the mix more and more with Warner. So there's that. And to make also the quick point that even in what is supposed to be this new digital media environment, the same age-old struggles over consolidation, conglomerates, white male, international conglomerate ownership, the fact that AT&T is worth $230 billion, as was reported in this story, and that behind it or involved in all of it, I just wanted to get to that part real quick, are all the same banking institutions as well. JP Morgan, I think I scrolled past it, and others are all involved in this. So it's, again, the same entities in the background, the same attempts to dominate our consciousness, or as George Creel pointed out some years ago, that I wanted, a phrase I wanted to start re-highlighting, conquer our convictions. That is the goal of propaganda and psychological warfare, to take that which is the most important to us and conquer it for their own, not just advertising and marketing, but really their psychological warfare for the suppression of potential counterinsurgency. So that was just one story I wanted to quickly mention this morning, as I still can't find where it was talking about the specifics of JP Morgan, but there it is. Lion Tree LLC, Goldman Sachs advised AT&T on the Allen and Company, another big hedge fund. JP Morgan Chase worked with Discovery to provide advice to this process. And again, here, AT&T, that gained 12% in 2021 already. All right, that's just probably the first quarter, is capitalized at $230 billion. So they're making hand over fist while everybody is suffering through another pandemic, economic and viral all together. And they're just continuing to consolidate ownership of our media environment to make sure that the kinds of discussions that we were attempting to have a moment ago and continue to have on BPM can't take place. So just wanted to at least bring some attention to that.
Bill Clinton's 1996 Telecommunications Act strikes again.
Tell him, Jackie. I still want to push Bill Clinton down some fucking stairs behind that damn 1996 Telecommunications Act. Like, anyway, but I mean, my background in broadcasting originates in radio and black radio. And when I listen to black radio, it really makes me mad. It's shameful that most black people in this country don't have a local morning show that's talking directly to them and their community and what's going on. But a lot of the syndicated morning personalities, especially, I'll even say afternoon personalities, are just slanging drivel. They are doing nothing to uplift us. And especially when we look at, for example, somebody like Kathy Hughes, who built her radio chops off of hosting revolutionary talk, black talk radio. And now she can give a shit about any of that. If I'm not mistaken, at most of Kathy Hughes's black-owned radio talk stations, the personalities have to pay for airtime. Like,
Oh wow.
Like you have to buy that airtime to have your show. I mean, I'm sure she don't charge Al Sharpton, right? Like Al, you know.
Oh no,
Al,
give
Al
him
Sharpton,
to the people for free. Thank you.
He's already wired.
By all means.
Plug his wires into these wires. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I kind of hope she charging Steve Harvey a whole lot, like a lot.
And to your point,
Steve Harvey.
Kim, not only do we get all of that, but not a local program, but a point that I have to credit Black Agenda's Glenn Ford with for decades, pointing out that Black radio hasn't had locally based investigative reporters since the 70s. That's one of the, so even before we get to I think by the time the Telecom Act came around, I think he was identifying that there was only one paid investigative reporter at that point already. So even before Bill Clinton, consolidation, Black ownership was wiping out traditions of necessary reporting.
But I mean, you don't hear radical talk on Black stations. Not even like really politically engaged talk on Black stations. And
they shuck and jive all the way through.
Well, because if you want the piece of that $500 billion in annual advertising revenue, which is the true determinant of media content, you can't have these kinds of conversations. So you have to have a newsless, national syndicated, empty, kind of conversation. So,
well, we only got like 2 Black-owned radio stations in this country. Like purely Black-owned radio stations. You just mentioned Kathy Hughes. The other radio station is Stevie Wonder's out there in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're only 2.
KJLH.
Maybe about a couple hundred we had maybe about 20 years ago.
But guess what, though? We have Black Power Media. So fuck
that's
them.
right.
There we go.
So,
there we go. So thank them for leaving this lane for us.
Yes. And we should definitely be grateful to be able to deliver the message in the way that it needs to be delivered. So, definitely, it's a new dawn, a new day.
And speaking of new days, don't fret, everybody. As I was, reminding Jackie, we don't have to worry about DC police because they're trained in Israel. We also don't have to worry about our other concerns facing Black America because Joe Biden's administration is going to build back better. And they are announcing big plans for Black entrepreneurs, everybody. So again, so
it's up Jared's alley.
The story is a few weeks old, I admit, but it is something that I don't think got enough attention because the trickle down, pun intended, effect of all of this is really has a lasting, lingering effect. So when they say here that the Biden administration, $1 million question has been how President Joe Biden plans to use his platform to level the playing field when it comes to Black-owned business. The Build Back Better is the president's view that we needed to do something right away in order to address the pandemic and public and economic aspects. But it isn't good enough to just get back to how things were. Right on, says Bharat Ramamurthy, the National Economic Council Deputy Director for the Biden administration, on a recent podcast. What they're planning to do is invest heavily in Black businesses, and yay for us at HBCUs, although maybe not so yay for those of us at HBCUs in the liberal arts and humanities, because all the money's going to the STEM side, apparently, to prepare Black students to enter the science, technology, engineering, and math fields, and to prepare themselves to become, as it says here, to provide incubators for Black entrepreneurs. So my point in sum is that, again, the trickle down is from the very top. It has been made clear for weeks, if not years, if not forever, that the only pathway that Black people can expect in the current order of things for support is if they want training specifically in STEM, or they want to start businesses. And the 2 quick points I want to make about that is, one, in Dr. Jelani Favor's recent book on HBCUs, we pointed this out already, STEM was used as funding. STEM has been used intentionally, is my interpretation of his work, to recenter Black focus away from the humanities and liberal arts, where you might engage radical philosophical, ideological, different perspectives, and and to channel all of the thought into the STEM fields where everything can be more organized and narrowly cajoled or corralled, and have everybody prepared for the defense industry, etc. And then the other point, of course, is that the only way that entrepreneurialism has to be promoted in defense of Black capitalism and capitalism writ large, as a pathway, again, to keep people. So again, on both ends, Black people are being encouraged away from radical thought, radical political organization, and calls for redistribution or anything, more militant or radical. So I just wanted to quickly point that out as to give us, some hope going forward, and excitement that Biden is caring and looking out for us. Anyway.
It's like the new charter school, huh? You know what I'm saying? Like this is it, the new program. Let me make you think that something's going to change when in fact nothing's going to change. It's all a racket. Oh, I love the Remix Morning Show. It's such a beautiful place to be.
But it's also that the money gets thrown out, and then it does start to sprinkle and trickle down, and then we get that messaging from the Hill Harpers and the whoever else is that this is, and this is the way we can do this, and that those who convene in gatherings like ours here can be more easily marginalized, as people say, well, why would we want to hear what they're talking if we can get a business loan or
it's all about the money chase. It's all about making you think that you got a chance to be like, as you showed those highlights, you can be the new tech startup giant. You can have these huge houses. I just think the whole ideological complete shift that took place, particularly, in the 70s, or, when you had that corporate side that took Black power, right? And even took the slogan Black Power and made it a Black capitalism, a slogan that Nixon got behind, right? That Ford got behind. And I think years and years after that, the sort of general consensus from Republicans and Democrats has been to push folks into the idea that making it in America means that you get you potentially have the opportunity, if you play ball right and not be with those radicals or not make those radical slogans, of one, getting a job, and or two, starting a business. And for the few that have the business, it's like, we'll give you a couple of trinkets here and there, because when we give you these trinkets, you will do exactly what Jared just say, isolate the other folks, or co-opt the language as you're isolating other folks to talk about this is really what Black self-determination means, right? And then, but no matter what the statistics continually say around Black poverty, Black wealth, death rates, healthcare rates, and all that kind of stuff, those things are to be ignored, because our savior is still in what we do individually, engaging in private enterprise. So.
Yeah, I was just thinking this sounds and feels a lot like, the whole get the bag ideology that we hear in a lot of hip hop. It's just like the politicized version of it. And in a weird way, I mean, it just feels like politicians saying, hey, how can we turn this messaging that Black kids love in hip hop about chasing money? How can we turn it into a political slogan and make it work for us? I just think I always think they're like in boardrooms scheming, how to, because they are, how to entrap another generation of young Black kids, like you said, Kamal, away from radicalization and radical politics, to keep them in this, Nixonian Black capitalist cycle without calling it that, and then they get folks like Jay-Z and them to kind of add on to the messaging. It's political get the bagism. That's what it is.
It is very much like,
man, I'm a businessman.
It
Jared,
is very
I have a
much.
question. I'm sorry.
No,
can I ask you about the HBCU funding portion of this? I wasn't exactly clear on that, because this bill encompasses the underfunding, like the makeup money, I guess, that they're supposed to be going to HBCUs from the federal government. After 100 years of underfunding HBCUs, they are somewhat trying to right the ship, or at least that's what they say.
As far as if I'm reading this story correctly, from what I understand, this is not meant to directly address that. So, for instance, the state of Maryland, I know just awarded. I don't know if it's ever going to get distributed. Something like almost $600 million in recompense for Morgan State, I think, and HBC and a couple others. But nationally, I don't think that this is meant to do that. I think this is meant just as a broader political piece. Presidents are often using HBCUs as sort of political footballs, so to speak, to show whether or not they're siding up with the Black community. And they'll say, they'll add some funding here to make themselves look good and to attract some support from university presidents, et cetera, for their various political needs, as do governors, et cetera. But so I don't get that they're trying to use this to address that particular concern as much as I think they're using it, as we've been laying out here, to address the broader political concern of how can we safely address the extended national Black outcry for justice. And one of the ways to always do that is to go back to what HBCUs are traditionally designed to do, is to address a Black elite middle class, to say we're going to give you something that you can go back to your community with as a pacifier, and then to also direct the energies intellectually and politically into the safer fields of the military industrial funded STEM community. So that's at least how I'm interpreting it. I didn't see anything specifically in the claim that this is, the state trying to address. By the way, which would be something connected to something I know we'll talk about elsewhere and later and throughout the platform going forward, is that I'm glad I'm not seeing that, in the sense that I don't want them to be able to use this as part of a false claim of reparative justice or reparations. As was done with the Evanston, Illinois housing thing and all of that. Like, I don't want, a few people get their, some pennies for their house and then we call that reparations. And I don't want a few pennies going to HBCUs and we call that reparations either, given how few Black people are even going to college and going to HBCUs, and how little of a national impact positively that has on Black people. So anyway, I know we're going to come back to all of that, here on the remix and throughout BPM. So anyway, a lot more to cover there for sure.
Yeah. So we have a lot going on. We have another hour and 6 minutes, hour and 5 minutes we're going to be pushing. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful Malcolm X day yesterday. So
very nice.
Let's keep that energy going. You know what I mean? I think that we celebrate and commemorate our folks for that day, and then it's back to business as usual. I'm proposing that we do Malcolm X month next year. You know what I mean? So we just keep that thing moving. But anyway, right about now it's about time to bring the ear doctor on deck, because we got a whole lot of other stuff kicked. We don't know what he about to do.
I see he got my sport in there. What's up?
And he muted out, and he sounds
muted out.
We still over here waiting for somebody to actually make a goal. How long it takes. But real quick, I would like to see some of that money put out throughout the school instead of STEM. But I do know how important STEM is, because it does seem like a lot of us are being kept behind in technology. And by this time, we should have our own social media. So I hope that they can put, some more people out there so we can get some STEM in our own social media and stop depending on theirs. But we're going to talk about sports for right now. Okay, y'all.
Remix Morning Show.
What's good, everybody? This is the Remix Morning Show. I am the Ear Doctor, and this is Black Power Media. This is a movement right here, so make sure y'all continue to support the movement. Go to patreon.com, go to Black Power Media, and drop a little something. You know what I mean? And subscribe and like. That's what we do here. All right, so real quick, I ain't talking about no sports in a minute. So we're going to kick it off real quick, and I'm going to just give y'all a little bit of the NBA first round. First round of the NBA, which starts off this weekend. We got the Heat playing the Bucks. we got the Mavs going against the Clippers, and we got the Celtics going against the Brooklyn Nets, and we also have Blazers playing the Nuggets, and then we got Lakers going against the Suns, and the home team here in Atlanta, the Hawks versus the Knicks, which is crazy because, I really didn't see the Knicks playing in the playoffs in years, and then they playing the Hawks. It's crazy. But anyway, that's what's going down for NBA. Now let's move over to baseball. I know I never talk about baseball, but this is what's going on in baseball right now. They're having a crackdown on the pitchers using foreign substances. Why are they allowed to do certain things in other sports that they're not allowed to do in other things? Like, really, you can put tar on a baseball and all types of stuff and get away with it. Speaking of that, let's go to the NHL, which is hockey. Why are these guys still allowed to fight each other? I mean, y'all remember that big fight that happened with Ron Artest and all them, and they got out in the bleachers and the stands and everything, and then they got fined and suspended for the whole year. But yet, in hockey, these guys get a little break. Referees stand around and watch them punch each other. I'm just saying, that's kind of crazy right there. But that's just something I be thinking of. But that's what it is. You are right here at the morning show, the Remix Morning Show, and we about to go back to the crew because you know how we do. All right.
Lord of mercy.
He talked all that trash and left out the best part.
What's
Liverpool won yesterday 3-0 to get themselves back in the top 4 in Champions League qualifying for next year. 3 goals.
A whole 3 goals?
Wow.
I don't understand, man. It's the buildup.
Make those 3 goals.
Hey, I think Kamal jumped in too, man, to defend the ear doctor's position.
Shame on you. Shame on the remix.
Speaking of which, one of our segments today is going to be a political sports conversation. We're going to have Brother Josh McCoy, who is a writer, activist, sports commentator. He's going to come on. We're going to follow up on that story on Kwame Brown. So if any of the hosts want to join us at 9:20 and join in that conversation, please come.
Because I have gone all down the rabbit hole on my man Kwame. I would love to join that. Right.
All right, come on in.
Kwame, go Kwame, bro.
And listen, y'all black people, don't be hockey averse. Hockey gets it in. Hockey is a very challenging, very athletic sport, and some of the best fighters in the whole sport have been black players. Shout out to Donald Brashear. I encourage y'all, go on YouTube and Google Donald Brashear fights. You will see Donald Brashear knocking out white boys left and motherfucking right.
Wasn't there a hockey team recently that had his first full all-black lineup?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember which team it was.
Was it Nashville? Or was it Tampa Bay? I want to say it was like one of the teams, like in the southern area, or maybe it was Columbus. I can't remember, but yeah, don't knock hockey, man. Shout out to all of our black Canadians, our Afro Canadians.
Shout out to the 12 black fans of hockey.
Exactly.
Shout out to all 12 of y'all.
The whole world watches my sport, and I get hated on. Kim will bring up hockey.
But I agree. The fighting was on the sports news. When you look at the sports news, it was always the fighting. That's what they showed. They knew that's what people wanted to see. I was like, I want to see you out on ice. I want to see you throw some blows. That's why they never will leave that out of hockey, because that's why they get the fans for. Let's get the fight on.
I mean, that's some sucker shit though, man. You got all this equipment on. You ain't really fighting. You know what I mean? Everybody full of helmets.
They're fighting on skates on ice.
Yeah.
Ice skating. Do you know how hard it is to maintain your balance on ice skates? You know how
because I hate cold weather. So the hell with some ice. You know what I'm saying? My boots out.
Whole ass from Connecticut gonna hate on winter. Make it make sense, Lord.
That's why I'm in Atlanta now. Anyway, moving right along from y'all goddamn ice skating stories, hockey stories, whatever you're talking about here. We have a clip from our resident warrior, Sister Tyranny.
Yo.
The Esquire, African Esquire, she got something to drop on us right about now.
Peace, Black Power Media family. I am Tierney Sharif from the African Esquire TV YouTube channel, here for your weekly Pan-African mashup. So I'm going to go through some topics that I've covered on my channel or plan on covering on my channel and just give you a brief overview. So with that, let's get started. A lot of people are upset at Representative James Clyburn. If you don't know, he's essentially the Democratic representative that essentially got Joe Biden elected. He was the one that really was able to rally his people in South Carolina to vote for Joe Biden. And we know that at the time he was actually losing the primaries and he miraculously won. Well, this guy has reversed course as far as his commentary on police reform bill. He stated that the bill does not have to include qualified immunity. If you don't know, qualified immunity, it's very hard to get not just police, any governmental official held accountable for racist acts, no matter how obvious they are, or just violent acts, just illegal acts. It's very hard to get them prosecuted because of this thing called qualified immunity. It gives them immunity, literally. So he was saying that he is willing to go forward with the police bill without qualified immunity. What makes it worse is that he says that, well, we'll get to it next time if we don't get it this time. My takeaway on this is that this bill is not really being used to do anything as far as changing the relationship between African people and the police. The bill is really just going to end the era. That's what it's being made for, to end the era of police accountability so that we can stop questioning these politicians, stop questioning their alliances, stop questioning people on this police thing, because they can then present us and say, hey, we passed this police bill. So hopefully our people can see through these things, see through these people, and really disengage from this political process that does not mean us well at all. Going back to the horrible, horrible atrocities that are happening in Palestine, the United States, through the United Nations, actually blocked, not once, not twice, 3 times, the United Nations trying to write a letter urging the Israeli government to stop firing and killing Palestinians, or calling for a ceasefire, really. This is interesting because it really helps us African people, indigenous people, to really come to terms with the fact that the United Nations is just a colonial entity and we have to treat it as so. There's no reasonable explanation for how it is that all of the world gets together and pretends to have a say in what's going to happen. Yet there's only one body that really is able to control what the rest of the world is going to do. That's the Security Council. The Security Council is the United States, France, the UK, Russia, and China. 5 countries. All 5 of those countries, and those are the permanent members, there are non-permanent members, but all 5 of those countries have veto power to stop anything that all of the countries decide to do. So literally everyone could say, Israel, y'all need to stop killing people. Y'all need to stop being so barbaric. All of the world can say that, and one country can block. This is a colonial institution once again, and we have to make sure that even after this crisis, even after it de-escalates, that we really come and really hold these people to task. Why are we actually even listening to the United Nations when they're not even a real equal institution, where they're a colonial institution, where they're an institution that is not even-handed? These are questions for our people to ask and demand answers to. In South Carolina, showing that the prison industrial complex is once again becoming more violent and more vile, the governor of South Carolina has said that since they're running out of lethal injection drugs, and hey, you guys might not have drugs to kill these people, you guys can start using firing squads or no electric chairs once again. Of course, the international community very much looks down, they say, on the death penalty. And the United States is one of the few, quote unquote, Western societies or whatever that actually still has the death penalty. So despite that, America is still holding fast to allowing the murder of many people. And it becomes more complicated again in America because of the institutions that exist in America, the racial legacy that exists in America. You don't have a country that's fundamentally racist being able to kill people because overwhelmingly the people who get killed are going to be Africans. So we know obviously that this is something that's going to disproportionately affect us. And it's already horrible that you're killing people, frankly, by the state that is a racist state. But the more barbaric tactics, that just shows how much they really dehumanize us and how much they really do not value our African lives. And lastly, in Congo are people who have suffered very much because of the riches that they have inside of their soil. Well, a news has come out that an Israeli businessman has possibly robbed the people of Congo of $4 billion. One single person, $4 billion. This is horrible, obviously, but it's even more horrible when you think about how many people in Congo are living off of cents a day. How many are starving? How many children are dying inside of the Congo? Meanwhile, these people walk out with $4 million. It's important for us to keep in mind, although we see these conflicts happening, people say that it's extremism and whatnot. This is extremism, but extremism comes because of extreme conditions. And the extremism is being motivated, created by the extreme actions of things like this. One single person walking away with $4 billion, whereas children are starving, children are having to work inside of mines, people are dying left and right from diseases that are easily curable. That is violent, that is evil. And unfortunately, because we don't have the structure to address neocolonialism as a crime, this Israeli businessman, just like all the other Western individuals who have walked into Africa and walked out rich, none of them get to be held accountable. That essentially wraps up my Pan-African mashup for this week. If you want to see the full stories, you can check them out on my channel. And until then, I plan on seeing you all next week.
Wow.
It's always so much going on. It's like it's always something going on where folks are just trying to exploit and take advantage of. And on that note, I wanted to ask Jared, I just saw this up. If folks have checked out the YouTube page for Black Power Media, there is an upcoming now summit for accountability in social justice movements that Jared is hosting and co-hosting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Cool. Actually, I'm glad you reminded me about that. First of all, thank you, Kamal. First of all, I want to take a quick pause. I know that, a quick pause, that sounds something. There's something in there linguistically.
Ominous.
Pause. But I wanted to just take a moment to shout out Dr. Joy James. I've made this point before publicly, but I think just to reiterate, this is a woman who is not only remarkable in terms of her own scholarship and political positions and all of that, but somebody who does what does not really happen that much in academia to this extent, who really does a lot behind the scenes to use her position to. She's operating on so many other levels. I just wanted to anyway. So she's big shout out to Dr. James. I just want to let me at least just say that. She has put this together largely and has, to my honor, invited me to participate in co-hosting what will take place right here, June 12th on Black Power Media from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. This accountability summit for accountability of social justice movements. And if I can, just real quick, I'll just go ahead and share this while I'm reading it myself. But that's going to involve Daruba bin Wahad, Felix Crittenden, Bianca Jamar, Ashley Yates, and others whose name, Dorothy Holmes, the BLM 10, representatives of the BLM 10, and the purpose is really to have the mothers of victims of police violence and predominantly women involved in the struggle around responses and Black collective defense and health, etc., to have a conversation about, well, as it says here, accountability. And that is largely in response to what has been going on lately with the Tamika Mallory and the Killer Mikes and a lot of others being seen as prominently representing the struggle, but not doing so in ways that many find helpful or sustainable or of value. So so Dr. James and others, pulled this together to say we should have a public conversation that involves and centers the mothers of the victims who get so much of the attention, and see if we can, advance this a little bit. So there's going to be this public event that takes place on the 12th, and then there's going to be subsequent to that some smaller breakout discussions that folks will learn about more that day and going forward. But so anyway, so that's what that is. So Kamal, thanks for reminding me and us, and again, shout out to Dr. James, and we invite everybody to check that out on June 12th. Absolutely.
Sound dope and necessary. I also want to point out that today marks the 1 month anniversary of the Remix Morning Show. We started.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Today is 5/20. Yes. That's
right.
So shout out to all the remixers out here who've been supporting the Remix Morning
and
Show.
the Mix-a-Lots.
He's really just not gonna let that go.
They like big buttons and they cannot lie. Anyway,
Somebody threw in mixettes in there.
Man. I think some of y'all, and shout out to the mixers, you know what I mean, who are making whoever drinks that came up with the mix-a-lots. Anyway,
they smoking their drinks.
They definitely smoking their drinks. What are we looking at? Paul Mooney.
By the way, real quick, before we do that, just since we're doing these announcements, and before I forget, we want to also invite people who are members folks to become members, and then those who are members to join us this Sunday for the Soldier Story First Roundtable Black Liberation Army gathering. Daruba, Blood McCreary, Sekou Odinga. I mean, it's going to be bananas. So please become a member, and if you are already, join us 11 a.m. That's right. Join Crush Proof. And Hope Crush Proof is in the building at 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday for this discussion, which is, I mean, I can't even believe it. So
first time ever.
Yeah, first time ever. So shout out to BPM for putting this together, and to Brother Kenyatta and for those brothers. Anyway, sorry about that, Kalanja.
That's all good. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. You talking about something that makes sense. You know what I mean? But yeah. Now I was just while we were just thinking about some of the funny things that go on in movement and struggle. I know we started off talking about Paul Mooney. I think he deserved a little bit more discussion about his situation. I know that he transitioned from a heart attack, and he had a number of other different ailments and ills. But we have to appreciate those folks who help us to get through our movement, because you have the cultural workers, you have the folks like Last Poets. The Last Poets just celebrated their 53rd year performing yesterday. You know what I mean? So the 53rd anniversary performing in Harlem at the Malcolm X Day Festival.
And shout out to Riot Starter TV for hosting that.
Yes, definitely. Shout out to Riot Starter TV. We like them. But it's so necessary for us to have, when we talk about healing, laughter is a part of healing. Dancing is a part of healing. You know what I mean? It's so these cultural workers are just as important as the quote unquote guerrillas. You know what I mean? We definitely need that type of entertainment. Where would we be without the Public Enemies? You know what I'm saying? Those of us from our era, the X-Clans and the Lakim Shabazz and all those folks back in the day who kind of helped to provide a soundtrack for the work that we do. And then later on, the groups like Dead Prez who came back and helped to ignite another fire, because it was a void. It was an absolute void during that time period. And folks like us who've been in movement, like Kamal and I and Jared and some of the others who've been doing this thing for, at least 3 decades. You know what I mean? 2-3 decades. It's a beautiful thing when we saw groups like Dead Prez just emerge. It had been so long since we had, because as you talk about the whole radio thing, we were inundated with so much bullshit. You know what I mean? That the revolutionary flavor, it left the plantation. You know what I mean? But folks like Paul Mooney was consistent with the work that they did, writing for others, the whole nine. So definitely, we shouldn't just look at this as just another death. He wasn't just any random comedian. You know what I mean? To stand up and have politics in the middle of a war, because of the fact that, there's so many comedians that can make you laugh, but to speak to these folks and tell them what's on your mind in their face was always a good thing. So definitely, he'll be missed as, the Dick Gregory's and the Richard Pryors and so on and so forth before them,
Yeah. What I liked about Paul is that he refused to kind of give up the political stuff to go mainstream. Like there's this, he had the talent, the wherewithal, obviously the connections to take his career in different directions possibly, but he was true to his art form, and that work that he did, that early work that he did with Richard Pryor. I remember because I'm old enough, the actual original Richard Pryor show that didn't last for too long because they pushed so many boundaries, not just like, political boundaries, First Amendment boundaries. And, they had one funny scene that I think it got nixed on NBC, but, the tape was saved where Richard was talking about what he had to give up to perform the show. And basically they showed him naked, kind of castrated. And he said this was the only way NBC was going to allow him to have his show, kind of thing. So there's just the idea that, and like you said, through comedy, you can always push and have these discussions. And so, on a similar related level, like I've never been one of these people that, like, comics to me get to say almost anything they want to say, and then you got to decide what you think is funny and what you don't, right? Like this whole thing around not letting folks sort of express themselves in weird, awkward, troubling, problematic ways, even. For me is something that I don't like. I don't like that kind of stuff. I'm like, let folks speak. You find out what's funny. Let the discussion happen, because it's one of the few places where you get to have that kind of like something that that I find funny that you may not, but you get to find some place to have some discussion and so forth. Sometimes it's not it's not maybe the same as this kind of serious political discussion, but sometimes allows you to go like, oh, I get that point that I didn't get before.
Word. Yeah. So humor is always a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things that I love about like Renegade Culture. Shameless plug for our show. The fact that we can get loose, we can crack some jokes, but we can still come with that revolutionary fervor, and it's unadulterated. And with me, I grew up, like I said, growing up in the projects. What got me through for the most part early in age was I always had jokes. You know what I mean? I was the dude that when I was younger, the drug dealers would pay me $5 to crack on somebody else while they smoking their weed and everything. My mother would be sending me to the store. I'm like 9 years old. She'll send me to the store, and I'll be downstairs for like 30 minutes, and the store is across the street. So the dealers and everybody, they'll be cracking up, rolling on their side because they high, and I'm talking about each one of them. And then all of a sudden, they start laughing a little bit harder, and I look back, and my mother's standing behind me. And it wasn't funny no more after that. Let's just say that. but that got me through, high school, the whole nine, so, it's a beautiful thing. Laughter is a wonderful thing, man.
It's funny that Kamal mentioned the Richard Pryor show, because those of us who are of a certain age remember the Richard Pryor party album, like Bicentennial Nigga and all that stuff. And I remember, like I said before, my grandmother, she used to have an after hours joint, that she used to run. We used to call speakeasies. And so when me and my sisters and them would be upstairs and the adults be downstairs partying and being liquored up and stuff, and I mean, you could hear Richard Pryor, you know what I mean? When they play the records and Red Fox and what's her name, LaWanda Page, and all of those, what they call those blue
Flip
records,
Wilson.
man. Yeah, right. And sometimes we used to say, like, we used to hook you from school, and it was a big thrill to like put a Richard Pryor record on, man. Like, like we eat some forbidden fruit or something.
I know we got to wrap us quick. Same thing. Like me and my sister, we had I think it was like Richard Pryor Live in the Sunset Strip or something no, but older than that. That was one of the older than that.
Yeah, that was in the 80s.
Put it on. My mom was sleeping, and we were just falling out, and my mom woke up and came out there, and she's like, "That's Richard Pryor. Turn that shit up."
Right. Yeah, your parents will be cussing at you, but then get mad because you listen to Richard Pryor. Ain't that a bitch? Anyway, speaking of something funny, the ear doctor coming up, and he about to drop something on us because I know he got something to give y'all. Where you at, ear doctor?
Yeah. What's good? What's good? So we're gonna talk about. It's Blosker season. It's Blosker season. We got to give a Blosker out to somebody.
Blosker.
That's right. The Black Oscar.
Why just call it the Reggie?
You give the award to.
Why don't we call it the Claretto Awards?
Call it the Kalanji. I mean, why you gotta call it a Blosker? Just give it a nigga name.
Well,
I'm sorry.
How about in the comments, y'all come up with something and we'll figure out something new instead of Bloskers if y'all ain't feeling that.
A Kalanji. Give it a Kalanji.
I like the Blambies.
He's not that funny. You can't give it a Kalanji.
Hey, I'm dope. I'm hilarious.
Yeah.
Kent Brown, you have taste. Wow. Come out, the Rodney Dangerfield remix. Anyway.
Hey, yo, real quick, though, can we give a shout out to one of our newest members?
Obiama Ohia.
Thank you for reading that.
Right. I saved you from that, and I probably got it wrong.
Good job, sister. Good job. Everybody was scared.
Yo, let's get to it, though.
All right.
Remix.
Yeah. What's good, everybody? As I said, it is time to give out a Blosker. Now, what is a Blosker? It is for actors and actresses that didn't get they Oscar awards, and didn't get all the praise due that they should have got. So I'm going to go ahead and give out one to none other than an actor that has done a lot. He's contributed a lot to the film industry. No other than Paul Winfield. Paul Winfield, who was born May 22nd, 1938, and made his transition in 2004. He was an American actor, television, film, and stage, straight from Dallas, Texas. And let me share with you a little bit about. I mean, this guy's done so many films and TV. He was seen in Sounder. That was back in like 1972. Trouble Man. One of my favorite movies that came out. A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich. He was in Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, which is one of the best Star Treks to me. But I mean, so many different movies till also TV. Guy was in Perry Mason. I mean, in so many different shows. He played Don King and Tyson. I mean, this guy's done everything. So we got to give it up to Paul Winfield and give him his props. You know what I'm saying? Give him his roses. And with that, Black Power Media presents to you the Blosker. So take that. Now, let's get back to our RemiX morning crew. You know how we do. Yeah.
Paul Winfield was definitely dope. You left out one important role that he played, my man.
What is that?
When he played Claretta's husband, Martin
I was
Luther
going to
King.
say that was the first. That was the first. I think for me, the first Dr. King I saw dramatically. You know.
Hey, and here's another quick tidbit.
Claretta's husband.
He dated Cicely Tyson for about 18 months, and then realized that he was a gay man, and was that's what happened. Yeah. He realized.
Well, here's a 6 degrees for you. My mother was in an acting class back in the days in New York with Cicely Tyson.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Just little.
Y'all know people.
6 degrees. I watch Cicely Tyson's movies.
Miles Davis dated her. What do we know about Cicely?
And they probably related to one of Kalanji's cousins. But I catch y'all next one later.
Wow.
Hey, y'all was talking about Richard Pryor. I had to bring this out.
Richard.
Wow.
That nigga crazy.
Yes.
All right.
Classic shit.
Classic.
And shout out to Dr. Todd Stephen Burrows, who was in the building with me for one of the most embarrassing moments of my life at Morgan State University, watching Rain Pryor's performance and the interaction that we all ended up having to have very publicly. That I just, Anyway, shout out to Dr. Burrows.
You got to say something.
I'm gonna have to say that story. That's not we gonna have to leave that one. That's gonna have to be like a members only. You got to pay that joint, because if you weren't there that night, that joint, boy. Woo!
Hey, let me find out.
That was too much trauma for me for one morning, man.
Let me find out that Rain Pryor made Jared Ball moist. Anyway, I got that from the Luke Mons. Anyway,
that definitely is not what happened.
Moving right along, we got to shout out our latest member. Let's go back. I just saw our latest member,
Pookie Wood.
Pookie Wood.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome.
What's up, Pookie Wood?
I didn't want to mess the name up. I saw Pookie. I was like, let's not mess up Pookie's
Pookie Wood
name.
representing Texas. Pookie Wood is part of the Burn It Down Fire Fam.
Right on.
So
thank you for cross-pollinating. Yes,
keep the wood burning, Pookie. Anyway,
and see you Sunday morning for the soldier story joint.
Yes, wonderful thing. Nice. Anyway, the views and opinions of the host and co-host on the remix may not necessarily be the views and opinions of the remix, but they definitely the views and opinions of whoever the hell talking about it. Anyway, moving right along, we have next guest coming up. We have a guest coming up. Is that right?
Yeah. We got brother Josh McCoy. We got a sports segment coming up, and I think Jared's going to stay with us to sort of co-host it and talk through some of the major sports events that's happening, that are political stuff that's happening in the arena. So let's get to it, yo.
Okay.
Brother Josh.
Hey, what's going on? Good morning.
Good morning.
So, as we have one brother Josh who was, on Renegade Culture. Again, sports writer, activist, columnist, also a member of Community Movement Builders. This brother has a deep history, knowledge of like sports and stuff like that. And not just from the idea of like, who's the best sports performers and so forth, but he mixes that stuff in with like some political ideology. So thank you so much for coming on our show.
Hey, thank you for having me. We could talk about who's the best sports performer, but I think you got some more interesting things that you want to go ahead and throw out there.
Well, the first thing, and this is something, I didn't, I wasn't following, and then Jared brought it up the other day, and this is like a major story in terms of folks going back and forth, is with brother Kwame Brown, who was drafted, 20 years ago, I believe, by Jordan, and he turned out to be, at least the claim is, he turned out to be somewhat of a bust, and he became part of sort of a joke for folks to talk about throughout the years. And apparently he got fed up and started going to town on some videos and calling folks out their name and talking about folks and how they building their careers. So I just wanted you to give us a little bit about, what you're thinking on this, and just a little bit about where this is at this day.
Yeah, so try to give a summary for people who are not following, because this is definitely one of those things that's kind of like in the undercurrent. I see Jared, you on your socials to be able to know about this one, and
hey,
so.
Man. Hey, but DC Wizards history, man. This touches my heart a little bit too. So anyway, yeah,
that's true. And apparently the story is that we have to blame Apollyon. And so going back, I guess 2001, I think, is when Kwame Brown was drafted. And he was drafted number 1, and apparently he was supposed to be traded. MJ thought he was picking a young big guy because everybody was chasing, the next big guy, for an Elton Brand, who was still at that point a 20 and 10 player. For non-sports people, that means you're pretty good in basketball. You're a solid bet to add to the team. And apparently the Wizards owner at the time, Apollyon, was like, nah, man, we're going to keep this guy. And so Jordan actually was upset about that and decided that he was going to spread through his media acolytes that, he was trashing Kwame Brown. And so you're in a situation where you're coming in and there's already lukewarm reception. You're already in a situation where you're 18 years old, drafted out of high school, and you're coming up and, the guys, they're like, hey, this is number 1, whatever. You're coming into a veteran situation, and it just wasn't good. I mean, you got to start off with some emotional support. Now, if we fast forward to 20 years or so, it's funny that y'all were talking about the dozens, and I know Kalonji always has that energy even before you get your breakfast. So you got to wake up ready, right? Well, that's pretty much what happened. There's always kind of been some jokes inside and outside of the league about Kwame Brown being a number 1 draft pick and not working out to, become whoever you thought. But I mean, when you look back on it, there aren't a whole bunch of number 1 draft picks in any sport that end up becoming the people who are, transformational or like, the generational star of the era. Like LeBron is somewhat of an outlier. Okay. But, generally like Kobe, I believe was drafted 13th, right? Michael Jordan was not a number 1. Like you go through the list of the people and it's just not something that is normal. And so, people kind of ragged on Kwame Brown. And I think there's something behind the scenes, because I don't know if what Matt Barnes, who some of y'all might know from, I guess, Basketball Wives, LA, I think, and Gilbert Arenas, and also Steven Jackson, who was a close friend of Big George or George Floyd, so y'all might have seen Steven Jackson recently. They kind of made some quibbles or what have you, and it might be a situation where there's something going on behind the scenes. But Kwame Brown took exception to it. And let the good times roll, man. That was it's a blood sport, So
I mean, he was going in up until last night. I mean, I was watching him live last night. So he has been responding. And Joshua, I'd be interested to hear what you think about, because to me, there is beyond the scandalousness of it and the sensational nature of it. Kwame Brown is making, to me, some very serious points.
Yes.
So one, his version is he was drafted at 17, which is important because, as he's pointing out, that all of these people have been making careers, particularly Stephen A. Smith, talking bad about black boys and dragging black young men through the mud at the behest and for paychecks from white ownership. So that was one of the points that he was making, in addition to several others about, what's his name? Chris Webber's former teammate, Chris Webber, going to the Hall of Fame, that's something I'd like to ask you about at some point too.
Sure.
His teammate from Michigan. Why his
Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose. Sorry about that. Because I agree with Jalen Rose when he says nobody should be talking bad about Kwame or others because nobody who makes it to the NBA is trash. Nope. So like you can't, you don't have to have a Jordan-like career, but to say that somebody is trash or a bust isn't fair to how they got there in the first. But he's making several points. I think that is Kwame that I don't want to at least see get lost, even as I enjoy the. He also, by the way, Kamal got some really good light-skinned mixed jokes in there too. Like I got to give him credit for that. I was cracking up, even he got it in. So anyway, but I don't. Joshua, did you notice any of that, and what do you think about any in terms of these points he's making?
I did. So I think we have a tendency just to have barbershop talk is what I would call it, right? You talk about sports, music, whatever. And so if you ever been inside of a barbershop, you kind of know the vibes. I think some of this is, kind of magnified because you're talking about people who have shows that reach, the hundreds of thousands, and some of these shows get millions of viewers. And so there's kind of like an inside baseball type of feel to it, right? It's like we're exposing certain things that, maybe amongst friends, maybe inside the barbershop is, it's just, it is what it is. But in front of company, so to speak, it becomes a larger thing. And so I'll kind of throw this out here. So you have a situation where instead of judging people specifically based on what they do on the court, and this is something that is not a new accusation to like a Stephen A. Smith. A lot of people have had problems with him over the years. Because he's kind of the right, because he's kind of the avatar. I mean, he's if he's not the highest paid person at ESPN at this point, he is one of the top 3 highest paid, and he has all the shows, TV, radio, what have you, digital. And so he has the reach, and he's been on ESPN for a long time now. I think it's been over 10 years. And so he's been there. But the tendency is to, instead of breaking down somebody's game, it's the sensationalism that draws people in. It's the sensationalism that keeps people going. And it's kind of like it's a show about a show, really. If you think about, kind of what most sports shows or talk sports shows end up being these days. And so you have a situation where it's like you said, you got a 17-year-old kid and he becomes 18 when he's playing his first game. And you got a whole group of people trashing him, haven't even seen him play. Right. He's gotten through summer league, right? Haven't even seen him play, but they already have things to say about his character. They already have things to say about stuff that has nothing to do with basketball. And I think that's kind of a long running thing. If you look at sports talk, where Don Imus was talking about nappy headed hoes or what have you. Like what's the point that you have there that has to do with about basketball? At that point it was about women's college basketball. So you got a long history of kind of what some people would consider white supremacy talking points, because you are denigrating people for their looks. You are denigrating people for what you believe to be non-performance or something that doesn't live up to the hype or what have you. But there are only 400 or so people who play professional basketball in the NBA, and these happen to be the best people throughout the world. And I think there's plenty of content to get in if you're breaking down, hey, I prefer this player over that player because, hey, we all know Kwame Brown, if you ever seen him, he didn't have hands to catch anything, right? And I think that's fair to talk about. And, especially there was, a little spell that he played with Kobe, and you felt bad for this guy because he's having the most amazing, 3 or 4 season run that you've ever seen on somebody that was playing on a terrible team. And so I think it's fair to pick apart, what these people were doing on the court. But when you start talking about somebody's a bust, I don't know. This guy's played his whole life, 15 years or so to that point, and he's made it to the NBA. To his point, he had, I think, a 12-year career. That's not a bust. I don't think so. I think that's the opposite of a bust. I think he's made it. To his point, he said he put his mom on a golf course at 18. And honestly, I mean, he's from the country, and he's from somewhere where you don't really get out. And so I think that's something to definitely be celebrated and not magnified by a lot of these largely white mind you, viewerships.
Yeah. But and I was going to say, I quickly, and then this is the thing. I remember Patrick Ewing, obviously, who didn't have a bust of a career, but was constantly being talked about intelligence, right? How smart he was. And it became this sort of stereotype again for Black athletes, Black basketball players and football players in particular, who get labeled in such tones as 17, 18-year-old people where they're just mindless bodies. And for Patrick Ewing in particular, who was shy, who again came from a working class background, that stuff inhibited him. And that racism, right, kept things going to the point where he never got the opportunities that white players got, who had half the talent, who didn't study the game like he did, but had the connections because of their whiteness, and never got called out for their sort of quote unquote mental abilities, like a Patrick Ewing would. So like, I think that, and I think in some of that inside of this also seems like Kwame is reacting to how these mainly black sportscasters are now, like you said, taking up this sort of mantle and degenerating young black basketball players, and and impacting how they think about themselves, and just doing this sort of show sporty this thing, like these cats are like horses to be picked apart and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and if we get to that point where you were saying what's the impact, so Justin Fields, who was just drafted by the Chicago Bears in the NFL, before he was drafted, you had all kinds of talk coming out about him being lazy, essentially saying, yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to read defenses on the professional level as far as in the NFL. Maybe he should switch positions. And we've seen this over and over again. They said the same thing about Lamar Jackson, Jared, as you probably recall a couple years ago coming out. They're like, yo, he should play wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And so you have these narratives that truly impact not just how these guys feel about themselves, but how they're able to take care of their families. And these things, going back to, you comparing performance and what's on the field and what's off the field. Well, if you really look at it, a lot of times you never hear anything off the field about the white players. There's a comparison now going around with going back to basketball. Luca Doncic, this guy is an amazing all-world player. I think he'll go down as one of the best, but he's a European player that happens to get a lot of technical fouls, and so you have compared him to Draymond Green, who also plays with a lot of fire, and who has definitely earned some technical fouls. I'm not saying he doesn't, but when you start watching the game, you see that some guys get it based off reputation, or if we say it differently, some guys get it based on what the narrative is of what these folks are saying. So you see how it impacts on the court as well. And I think it's important for us because you mentioned something that we should probably get into about the Kwame Brown situation. Jamel Hill responded like, oh man, this is violent. And I think that's like, what is this? Birth of a nation? Come on now, so we've got a situation where folks are going back and forth and actually giving the people, the content that they're like, desperate for, which is some drama. And so it's there. And these guys are basically just going back and forth. I don't see any, particular violence or anything that would say that we should label it as such. I think any labeling kind of perpetuates the myth of this, big black brute who is just waiting to harm people or, is already on the lookout for people, to be able to harm. And it's just, sometimes you see Jamel Hill tweet and you wonder who she's tweeting for. I mean, I have my own thoughts and opinions there.
So let's hold up on that because we actually, our other guests, our other host want to get in on this action. So we're going to take a little break and bring you back, Josh, because our other hosts are like, they want to get in all this action on the sports talk. They don't want to be excluded. So let's get to the ear doctor real quick and bring everybody back on together on RemiX Morning Show.
Yeah, ear doctor.
All right, let's go do a quick artist spotlight, and then we get back to it. Let's do it like this.
RemiX Morning Show.
What's good, everybody? What's good? So right now we're gonna do one of our artist spotlights. As you can see, I got the Sundays joint behind me, and this Sundays, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but I'm thinking about doing an 80s versus 90s hip hop set. So stand by for that one. But for right now, we want to give it up for a artist that sent in their music. And like I said before, don't forget, if you do have a dope song and you wanted to get heard and you want to send it my way, then go ahead and send it to Ear Doctor Music 1@gmail.com. Send it there. So right now we're gonna give it up to an artist that goes by the name of Marcel P. Black. Marcel P. Black. Let's get into their song. It's called The Sweetest Inspiration, and it's produced by Dasha Burner from his upcoming LP, Everything I Love. Sweet Inspiration. Let's get it.
Hip hop. We do this for the culture, man. We gon' rock on. We gon' rock on. And 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 we gon' rock on. Some people move too. We gon' rock on. And we gon' rock on. And we gon' rock on. And we gon' rock on. Let's go. Style over substance, struggle over suckers, courage over cap, gangsters over government, freedom over fresh, children over checks, morals over money, people over politics, dignity over dope, history over hoax, knowledge over nuisance, revolution over rope, power over police, 20s over 12, God over genocide, heaven over hell. I rock both black brands and low, black fists and gang signs thrown at every single show. Enjoy strippers, but no God is a black woman, there ain't no contradiction, man, I tip my hat to both. Oh Lord, both Tupac and 2 Chainz, Goody Mob, Gucci Mane, Lil Brother, Lil Wayne, Double Veil, both black and American, true to myself, man, this culture over everything. We gon' rock on, we gon' rock on, and 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 we gon' rock on.
All right. So, yo, check that out. That's Marcel P. Black, Sweet Inspiration. Now, let's get back to what we do at the Remix Morning Show. All right.
Yo, Remix. This is so perfect, everybody. This is so perfect. We did not plan this. This was not orchestrated. Ear Doctor rocking that track right now. First of all, me and Marcel P. Black go way, way, way back.
Word.
Right?
Okay.
That's my guy. That's my guy. Baton Rouge, hold it. This is one of my favorite MCs. Go check out one of my previous lives with Marcel. We get into a lot of his stuff. Anyway, we go. This is my man. But as we were having this conversation, he was actually responding to me this morning, right now on Twitter. So hopefully you tuned in, Marcel, to catch this, because Marcel said I got it wrong when I was saying Jamel Hill was wrong for getting on Kwame Brown. Are y'all seeing the segues here? Is everybody following the segues?
You the man, man.
You're the professional.
We are the people is what I'm saying. It's not me. We are the people. BPM, the remix. This is so perfect. So as we are talking with Josh, as Ear Doctor's rocking Marcel's hitting me up saying, no, Jamel Hill wasn't saying Kwame Brown was being violent. When she posted the violence piece, according to Marcel, she was making a Game of Thrones reference, a pop cultural reference, not actually accusing Kwame of being violent. I was saying, well, he didn't take it that way. I didn't read it that way. I read it as we were starting to discuss it. Like this was another one of the modern day. This is where Abdus, where you and I might vibe on this point, where I feel like the newness of all this joint, where if a man steps up with, as Kwame said last night, with some bass in his voice, it says step to another man, it says you talking trash, what's up? Then all of a sudden that's violent. And in the 20 years of dragging this young man through the mud on commercial media, that's not violent apparently. But him finally stepping back as a man and saying, you can't keep talking trash and not have me respond, you punk. He had some words. But the point is to say that is violence So anyway, just catch this. I just love what was happening here. I don't even care what everybody's side.
I'm gonna go get my popcorn and watch the rest of this.
Anyway, thanks, here, Doctor. Shout out to Marcel P. Black.
I just like to say, man, with Marcel, right? Like I gotta admit, man, I'm just now knowing about Marcel, but he coined one of the phrases, man, that is one of my favorite. The day of the fat man is near. So so I love that. I mean, shout out to the fat men out there. The day the fat man is near.
Dilly. Anyway,
let's get back to the sportsman. Let's get back to the sportsman.
Yeah. So, Josh, actually, that was my question though about Jemele Hill. That I read what she was saying was she's accusing Kwame of being violent, and in this new day and age where there's some So with all due respect to Marcel or even to Jemele, I took what she was saying as being an undue claim against Kwame. But anyway, I wanted you to, follow up with that if you would.
Yeah. So I think what we have a tendency to do is we look at the folks with the blue checks, and not we as in Black people, but just folks in general, the public at large. And so you have a long history of people that are supposedly spokespeople or what have you, and you get into this in your book, the myth and propaganda of Black buying power, to a certain extent, especially like when you start off talking about Jay-Z. Where we are looking at folks and we say, hey, these are the people who kind of, represent Black thought or Black ideas or Black opinions. And so Jemele Hill is now in a situation where that is her. She's got programs, including a podcast. I think she has a TV show. She's coming from the sports world. And so, you got to definitely respect her as a journalist, especially as a sports journalist. But I think that when we allow people to get to those platforms and we help build them up, then they also mix in some other stuff that some other communities may not necessarily need to be in on. And so there's a lot of explaining going on. There's a lot of, even some of the jokes. Sometimes I think when you have a larger platform, you may or may not even think about, hey, look, there's people following me that maybe they shouldn't be in on this joke or what have you. And I think that's for each individual to decide. But I definitely read that as kind of a shot at Kwame Brown as an avatar for Black men, so to speak, of, hey, look, this is violent or this is brutish,
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I agree with what Jared was saying earlier, man. It's like folks always want to hop their ass out and expect you not to say anything. So I salute Kwame Brown because of the fact that so often, many of us, we hold our tongue, believe it or not. We hold our tongue and it's like, look, I could really go the fuck off, but I'm really trying to be calm and trying to be a team player. But then folks go overboard and whatnot. You know what I mean? I'm old school. Like you said, if you say you're going to do something, then it's your duty to do it. You know what I mean? I remember my daughter, she was 8 years old, and she said some girl at the bus stop was saying she got her shoes from Payless. So my daughter said, I said, well, what did you do? She said, I told her that if she say that one more time, I was going to smack her. I said, well, what did you do? She said, well, I do what I say. And she said, I say what I do and I do what I say. So I had to slap her. You know what I mean? So I take that position. You hop your ass out there talking about all this nonsense and yin yang. And when somebody responds, it's not you being violent. You're responding to whatever it is they have to say. So if you don't want their heat, stay your ass out the kitchen. It's like what Malcolm said. If you don't want to get down with the revolution, take your ass out the alley. That's just how it goes.
Can I ask, what was the origin of all this? Because Kwame Brown is a very quiet person, right? Like Kwame Brown had a pretty long career in the league, 10 years plus, went through a whole bunch of cities, started here in DC, bounced around a lot. I never heard about Kwame getting in trouble or fucking, throwing strippers at the strip club. You know what I mean? Like Kwame is not a rah-rah cat. So I don't even understand how Kwame's name even got brought up by Derek Fisher and Matt Barnes. Like what even prompted Kwame being included in this conversation?
To Kalanji's point, it was on the All the Smoke podcast.
I understand that, but what was the genesis of Kwame being included in critique or whatever? You know what I mean? Like how did this even start?
I think that's kind of his point, is that it started in a conversation that really didn't have much to do with him, but they had Gilbert Arenas, who you all well know.
No Chill Gil.
No Chill Gil. And he's never had chill, right? He's never been chill. And so, he's a jokester. So he throws, that his time in Washington kind of came up. And so, then there was, the obligatory mention of Kwame Brown being the number 1 draft pick and so on and so forth. So it came up in conversation, and it kind of appeared that's why I said there must be, something more to it, because Kwame definitely reacted as if, he was in on something. They definitely make jokes about him all the time. Just say that.
What? See, that's the problem. Like, if you're a person who minds your business, right, and don't have a lot to say, people will seek you out to pick on you. So if Kwame is clapping back in a big way, then I am Team Kwame. Even though people in the chat are saying that Kwame is a Trump supporter, so I don't even. Maybe I'm not Team Kwame because I don't know Kwame's politics. So
maybe on this one issue, Kwame had a right to respond back.
Yes, I don't on this issue. Yeah, especially because he's not promoting that. And while others are promoting themselves as progressives for supporting Biden. So in this case, I'm still on Team Kwame. And even if he is even if he is a Trump supporter and backwards politically in this issue, I think he has a right to defend himself. I mean, you can't just be out here expecting somebody to drag your name through the mud for 20 years. And then he finally says something and they so.
Now he's violent.
Right. And then they was talking about him in the club, talking about him and his brother. They fought 6 bodyguards. They had to take so many to calm them down or to break them up.
But they were bringing up stuff about his brother and his father that he had nothing to do with. What? That he doesn't even know. He didn't even have a relationship with his brother, according to his own lives, at least, because I've been watching him. He didn't even have a relationship with his wing of his family. And then so his point was, so everything that my family members do that I have nothing to do with, I got to be responsible for it. So like, what would that look like for everybody else? Even I wouldn't want that.
So basically, what I'm getting is that Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher was acting real light skinned in this whole.
Well, let's put it this: Derek Fisher wasn't on
one
there,
Derek Fisher.
Not Derek Fisher. My bad.
I'm not sure that you'll see Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher doing much of anything together.
Yeah, right. My bad. I'm getting my characters.
Maybe quickly fill people in on that little tidbit. Just a little quick thing. Josh.
So, because Kwame Brown brought this up, so I guess this is on topic. A lot of Kwame Brown's jokes have been Derek Fisher, who was coaching the Lakers at the time. The Knicks at the time. Excuse me. Was chilling with Matt Barnes's estranged wife, I guess, at that point, while their kids. So the kids were there and everything. So
and Netflix
it was
and
clear.
chilling, by the way, to be specific.
If that's what you want to call it, okay.
If that's what you want to call it. So it was clear that they had a pretty good rapport, if you want to say that. And so Matt Barnes drove from 90 miles away, or so to speak, and apparently got there in 30 minutes. And there were some conversations with hands had. Yep, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Well.
Right. So let's do. I mean, it doesn't. I know we're running out of time, and originally Joshua had a few sports stories. I know I want to run a little bit over. Let's just do one other sports story that you think is really important for us to think about. It might be the Hall of Fame, or I think the Basketball Hall of Fame. But if you have one that you think we really should have a quick 3-minute discussion about.
Real quick, Palestine. So you got some guys like Kyrie Irving. He gets a lot of flack in the media because he doesn't play the game that we're just talking about, where he's giving them content. Like he's someone who is very conscious and who's also always trying to use the media to be able to proliferate whatever messages he's trying to get out. So he was asked about going into the playoffs. And he said, well, look, I don't feel like talking about that right now, because he wanted to shed spotlight on what's going on in Palestine. And I definitely have to give that brother props because he has consistently stood up and not just waited for a question to be asked. And so you'll have some guys that have been really active and conscious, and they have good politics that reporters actually stay away from. But you can't stay away from a guy who is, at this point, one of the top 5 players in the league, at least by my estimation. And when you're asking him a question about basketball, he redirects it to the issues that he cares about. And so you had Kyrie Irving do that. Kenny Stills has been someone who's been involved in protests, specifically around the issue of Palestine. And he just tweeted something about Black and Palestinian solidarity. Kenny Stills has a history of support of Palestine. I believe it was in 2017. There was a pro-Israel type of event, and they brought together a delegation of NFL players. And if I remember correctly, Kenny Stills and Michael Bennett decided they were going to sit that out, because they couldn't support Israel in a situation to where, there is an apartheid state going on. I mean, you got Human Rights Watch, which is not a radical organization by any means, saying that they're committing the crimes of persecution and apartheid. And these are crimes against humanity. And so if you have that situation, it's really not a hard stance to say, okay, well, we're against what Israel is doing. But as you can see, a lot of these folks are worried about their sponsors and their partners and, the different relationships they have that bring them money. And so I think it's worthwhile to recognize certain guys that are actually taking a stance that can cost them.
Right on. Hey, Norman Finkelstein said the other day that every Israeli citizen is a war criminal. I mean, wow. So shout out to them for taking that stance, and appreciate you, Josh, bringing that to our attention too.
So does that mean that every white American is a war criminal?
I was going to say the same thing.
That logic would follow.
Yep.
I mean, we're on stolen land right now, and folks are benefiting from resources from an empire parlayed by the destruction and genocide of natives and Africans across the planet. So, I mean, that's one to grow on. We can
only on the remix can Norman Finkelstein get a shout out and be called a war criminal himself in the same.
Goddamn
well
right.
done, well done.
Hey, like everybody going to jail. You know what I'm saying? What Wesley Snipes say? Nino Brown? Yeah, that pretty motherfucker from uptown. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing. We all going out. But I want to make a quick. I want to remind folks. I got a number of different heads that's hit us up talking about how to become members. I know that in the past there had been problems on the cell phone with you joining, but all you have to do now, I guess they updated it. Go to the homepage. Right next to the subscribe button, there's a blue join button, and that blue join font, you can just hit it, and you'll be able to join. I know in the past you had to join from your computer, but you can also join from your cell phone now. So definitely go to the homepage. You can't do it while you're on watching the video or whatever. You got to click out, go to the homepage, next to the subscribe button, hit join, and you'll be able to join, because you definitely want to see what's going on this Sunday on this members only joint with the BLA.
Yeah.
True. So we want to thank Joshua for joining us. We're going to have you back. We know we're still working on a potential sports show. So more details about that in the upcoming weeks. So thank you, Joshua. You stick around for a couple of seconds as we do our outro.
No doubt. Salute, Josh. Good to see you up in here. You know what I mean? You came on a remix show, and you've grown since then, my brother. It's very good. I'm glad you Renegade Culture helped make you happen, my brother. But anyway, you're checking out the remix. Today is the final day of the week. So we have to say goodbye, but Jared Ball will be back tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, we're going to talk about some reparation stuff too. We got some stuff coming up. We got some good stuff to get into tomorrow. So join us tomorrow morning as I try to hold it down just a little bit until we reconvene for our Monday next Tuesday.
No doubt. And also,
that's pocket logic. Good gracious. What kind of weed ass calendar y'all have here telling people?
Hey, look here, man. We need to institute that.
Tuesday is Monday. Like,
hey, look here, man. Hey, Kim Brown, man. You gonna learn that this is revolution. This is the remix.
Well, I
need
y'all revolutionary asses. Y'all revolutionary asses show up for Burn It Down with Kim Brown tomorrow, 5:00 Eastern on the Burn It Down with Kim Brown channel. We burning some shit up tomorrow. So y'all check out Jared in the morning. Come holler at your homie when you get off work.
No doubt.
And
also check out
and
the
in between on tomorrow on BPM date night.
Let's go.
That's where we started off, Jackie and I. We're gonna be talking on part 2 on Zionism, and we're going to take the subject matter on the similarities between the Zionist Israeli propaganda and how they frame the narrative to the Palestinians to the world versus how the American propaganda machine have done that to us. So we're going to relate the similarities between the two.
So in other words, just a light discussion topic.
Easy,
relaxed.
Easy, nothing to get upset about.
Right, right. And then after that, folks, Last Dope Intellectual is I got to see it, obviously. It's fantastic. Brother Dev Springer is going to be with us, and it's you don't want to miss this joint either. And then, of course, Renegade Culture. It coming Friday night?
Hey, listen, man. Renegade Culture is going to be hot. I can't believe the judge is going to test our gangster. You know what I mean? We was on time last week, and we're going to be on time this week because that's what we do at Renegade Culture, and we're going to be wilding out. In fact, Jared don't even know he going to be on Renegade Culture this week. He don't even know yet. That's right. We already booked him. We talked to his agent. Don't worry about it.
You got an agent?
Yeah, perhaps.
Dang.
Kim Brown might stop through, but we'll see because she be bugging. But anyway,
I just need an invite. You know, I know y'all need to keep y'all quota of loudmouth women down to a minimum. So I know.
We're gonna talk about that too. So definitely check out Renegade Culture tomorrow at 9 p.m. And what else is going on tomorrow?
I think that's it. That's
it.
That's all they need, huh?
Last Dope Intellectual.
Yep, we hit that.
Okay. Well, anyway,
out of here.
Yeah, we out of here. Bump that. Remix Morning Show. See y'all next week.